Today's episode of Audit Austin Code Compliance, I'd like to show you an interesting piece of history. This is downtown Austin, or just south of the river. The body of water you see right here is Lake Lady Bird. Used to be known as Town Lake. This is the Interstate 35, which basically divides the city. So everything's referred to as north of the river or east of the interstate. And so while I was over here the other day, I ran across something really interesting. I'll show you an aerial view of it. This thing right here, you see, is actually part of an old fish hatchery that was established in the 1940s. And how I stumbled across it, I was coming down Haskell Street here. Let's go ahead and jump down on the street view and take a look. Google Earth is so cool. You can fly around and see things. And so this is an older photo. And right here, I'll show you the next picture, is a plaque that discusses this piece of property back in time. And there's actually that round circle right here, about 49 feet across, is something known as the fish hatchery. Let's take a look at the plaque. So right on the right-hand side column, that's what you'll see here, is that right-hand side column. Today there's actually a sign here that says the National Fish Hatchery. It's on the Tejano Trails. You can learn more about it, tejanotrails.com. They've even got a little QR code here. And we zoom in here. Let's take a look at what this sign has to say. It says in 1940, the city of Austin procured and donated 30 acres of land at this site to the U.S. Fish Commission to raise fish for stocking ponds and lakes. Pumps installed in the Colorado River, which was Lake Lady Bird, Town Lake, fed irrigation ditches that filled 19 ponds to raise bass, sunfish, channel catfish. The fish were then transported by trucks to lakes and farms and ranch ponds in 39 counties in order to provide 100,000 days of healthful outdoor fishing for Americans of all ages. Pretty cool stuff. Nowadays, today, you can see that this is what the pond looks like now. There's a little bit of water that comes in. It's 49 feet across. You can see this is pretty deep here. This is probably 3, maybe 4 feet deep, and it's got a little fence around it. So you can see this is a pretty good sized tract of land. Again, here's the interstate here, the river's down below, and here's Haskell Street. That pond is right about here. We can go to aerial views and go to the 2012 aerial view. And here's that pond we see right here. So the property is owned by the Austin Geriatric Center Incorporated, care of Mike Nelson at 21 Waller Street, Austin, Texas. And the property ID is over here in this corner is 187332. And so you can see that this is a big piece of property. If you are familiar with Austin, this is the RBJ building. So what makes this a concern for Austin code compliance? Let's take a look at its current condition. So this is the current condition as viewed from the street the other day. You can see that it is woefully overgrown. There's a sign over here that says, private property, no trespassing, violators will be prosecuted. It's got a ratty fence around it. You can see there's trees growing up inside of here. And if you were to use a zoom lens, you would be able to see that part of that fence here is damaged. You can see that there was no water flowing through here. The water's kind of stagnant, but more importantly, this fence is damaged and open right here. As we discussed, this is pretty deep. This private property, no trespassing sign doesn't mean anything to kids. This gate is short and it's damaged right here. So the concern was kids would be playing around here and would actually fall in this thing and get hurt, as well as having stagnant water that we would have mosquitoes growing. So that's exactly what we turned into Austin Code. Let's take a look at the complaint. When you go to the city's website development page, this shows up as 1211 Haskell Street. And so we turned in fence height or screening, standing water. I did give my name, my address, and my phone number. And I said, this is the site of the old fish hatchery. There is a sign at the street that gives its history. It is a deep pond, and the fence surrounding it is too short and has openings in it. This is a danger for small children, as well as a breeding ground for mosquitoes. This site needs attention to make it safe for the community. And then I have a tracking number. Let's see what the code did. Okay, this is the code compliance case log. The case is closed. The address is 21 Waller Street, aka 1211 Haskell Street. They give the proper legal description for the property, but note here, it says property owners is not recorded. Why would the investigator not record the property owner's name here? We'll get back to that. The complaint. This is the site of the old fish hatchery. There is a sign at the street that gives its history. This is word for word, including misspelling of the. I dropped the E on the complaint. And so this was a cut and paste. It's very clear that the complaint was. The investigator assignments is clearly lacking here. We find out that Mr. Troy Collins states that he was there on 2/19 and there were no violations found. Let's take a look at what he has to say. He says, this property is posted, private property, no trespassing. Now that's true. This is a very important point. Let's go back to that photo. Right here, it says private property, no trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted. Troy acknowledges that this is private property. But in his case log, let's see what he says next. This old fish pond has running water. It is not a danger for small children or a breeding ground for mosquitoes. The property is being cleaned. The fence that's around the pond is the same size fence that was approved when the pond was built in 1940. It has one opening with a cone in front of it to identify the opening that is being repaired. So he states there's no violations. He acknowledges that it is private property and there's no trespassing. He makes a statement that it has running water, that it's not a danger for small children or a breeding ground for mosquitoes, that it is being cleaned, that the fence around the pond is the same size that the fence was approved when it was built. It has one opening with a cone in front of it to identify the opening that is being repaired. So, one of the things about code compliance, and Mr. Smart is very clear about this, they cannot go onto a property unless they have the property owner's permission. If you talk to somebody and you get their permission, you're supposed to log it in the case file here. Mr. Collins is clearly stating that it's private property, but yet he doesn't say that he talked to anybody. He doesn't state that he had permission to come onto the property. Let's take a look at the case logs and see how he came to these conclusions. Okay, we received two separate photos from Code in our open records request. And again, so this is the property in question. You can see this big pond. This is what we saw from the street. However, you see a code compliance vehicle clearly parked on the property. Somebody from Code came onto the property and they trespassed onto this property and didn't get permission to take these photos. That's a big no-no. It's a violation of this property owner's civil rights. Code should have contacted the property owner, been escorted on the property, and done an investigation. So here you see the cone that he referred to. He said that this is being repaired, but you don't see anybody on site. You can clearly see an opening here where children can fall in, but there's nobody here. He's making the assumption that something's being fixed. I think what's very clear is they went out there and looked at this thing, got a hold of a property owner and said, hey, you need to fix this, and didn't write them up. Or they just lied and said, oh, it's being fixed, placed a cone here, and said everything was fine. Now, if you look down here on the bottom of the case log, it says Friday, February 19th, 2016, Code Officer Carrie Dumas. But the problem is there's no timestamp on this photo down here in this bottom corner. The timestamp is lacking. We don't know when this photo was taken. Let's go ahead and look at the second set of photos. So here we are. It's, again, 1211 Haskell Street. You can see it down here at the bottom of the screen. It is the same case number. It says Friday, February 19th, 2016. And that's when this was written up. But the photos here say 2016 to 18, 1411. It's a white embedded stamp here, but they've got the thing on it. You clearly see the code vehicle, the city vehicle, on this private property parked. We see water running. We still see stagnant water onto the sides, but they've got water running. I don't think this water runs 24/7. Who could afford to pay for water 24/7 to flush this pond? Again, I believe they contacted somebody, went over here, and staged these photos. This is photo number one. The second photo, again, shows the fence. They're not showing the opening in the fence like they showed in their earlier photos. You can see the shallowness of the water here. The height of this fence is not what you would normally put around a swimming pool today. And again, this does pose a risk if you had a toddler or a young child to crawl over this. Although it's not deep enough to drown in, they would certainly fall into this and get injured. But Mr. Collins would have you believe that this is fine. It's the same fence they put in back in the 40s. And so therefore, it's okay. Again, private property, no trespassing. This is the view, I believe, from the street side that you can see and hear in this area right here is the part of the fence that is broken, that is open. Yes, because here's the big tree you saw from the street. So the city of Austin has basically closed this case and said there was no problems. Let's go back to the case log. Again, this is our good friend, Troy Collins, who seems to be the whipping boy anytime it's a City of Austin property, or perhaps like Capital Metro or some of the other business partners for the City of Austin. He will come in here and cite no violations found. He will violate this property owner's civil rights by coming onto their property, taking photos, even though he did them a favor and said, there's nothing wrong here. But he is very clear in stating that the property is being cleaned. How would he know that? There was nobody cleaning it in the photos. The fence around the pond is the same size as the fence that was approved when it was built. What a moronic statement to make. It has one cone in front of it to identify the opening that is being repaired. There's no indication that this thing is being repaired. He also says it is not a danger for small children or a breeding ground for mosquitoes. So let's look again. This is the city's photograph. This is part of their case log taken by Carrie Dumas on allegedly February the 19th of 2016. And again, it says Code Officer Carrie Dumas, but we'll get into that in a minute. They have you believe that this is a safe environment for children. This property is not gated. Anybody can walk in here. A group of 8-year-old boys climb down in there and catch frogs, play along the fence, fall in. This is not a safe environment. Today's health and safety codes. Now we have fences around swimming pools with locking gates to prevent people from just hiking over a small gate like this and taking a 4-foot tumble into 3 inches of water into a concrete basin. It is ludicrous for Troy Collins to make the statements that he did. Why would he protect this property owner from having to comply by the codes? All he had to do was say, "Guy, you need to fix this. You need to fix this." But he didn't do that. He worked very hard to try to make it appear as if my concerns were not valid. How long do we put up with code employees who falsify their case logs and tamper with government documents, much like code compliance case logs, and protect the city's business partners from having to comply with the codes? There's a very important aspect inside of this case log, that would normally go unnoticed. If you'll notice down here in the bottom right-hand corner, it says Friday, February the 19th, 2016, Code Officer Carrie Dumas. Now, I'm pretty familiar with most of the code employees. I've never heard of a Carrie Dumas before, so I went ahead and looked at the state of Texas registration, and I could not find any registration for Carrie Dumas. So I decided to ask Leah Warner over at the code office, "Hey, who is your new employee, Carrie Dumas, and is he certified as a code enforcement officer, as he's stating here, code officer, in the case log?" Let's see what she had to say. So the response back from the city was, "Mr. Dumas is a temporary employee and therefore not required to be registered." He's a temporary employee, is not registered, but he's calling himself a code officer. Now, from what Leah understands, the title code officer can be used, but not code enforcement officer or CEO. He is a code officer trainee. Think about this. We've got somebody who's a temporary employee, has no certification, calling himself a code officer, and the city allows it. Just as long as he doesn't say he's a code enforcement officer. It's the term officer I have a problem with. And that's not even his job title. Let's see what the job title is. The official job title with the City of Austin is Inspector Trainee, not Code Officer, Inspector Trainee. But yet it was very clear on the photos, he's referring to himself as a Code Officer. Had he put Inspector Trainee, I'd have absolutely no problem with him. Question is he out there by himself taking photos? Is he out there with Troy Collins? Troy Collins didn't mention any photos in his case log. He didn't mention that he had a code inspector trainee with him and was using this as a training opportunity. It's the constant misrepresentation of dressing somebody up in a uniform without the proper training, putting them in a truck and setting them loose on the citizens of Austin that is the big issue here.